Imagine a typical Friday night. Who performs the blessing on the wine? And how come the answer is most likely my father or my husband? To answer that, let's take a deeper look at the sources for the tradition of Kiddush, sanctifying the Shabbat. It is written in the Talmud Tractate Pesachim, remember the day of Shabbat to sanctify it. Remember it over wine. From the words remember the day of Shabbat, the sages assume that the Kiddush, the sanctification, is done during the daytime. Our sages continue their discourse and ask, how do we know that it is necessary to sanctify at night as well? The Talmud concludes that the main discernment of the sanctity of the Shabbat day should be done at the beginning of the Jewish day, that is, Friday evening, and therefore the essence of the commandment of Kiddush is at night. And who is obligated to sanctify? Men, of course, since they are obligated in all commandments. What about women? According to the famous principle that women are exempt from time-bound commandments, commandments performed at a specific given time, women should be exempt from the sanctification of Shabbat, since it applies at a specific time. In Tractate Brachot, a debate arises regarding the degree of obligation that women have with regards of the commandment of Kiddush. Rabbi Ada bar Ahava states that women are obligated to sanctify the Shabbat mideoraita from the Torah, while Abaye holds that their obligation is one rooted in sages. Both agree that women are obligated to sanctify, but disagree on the level of their obligation. Rabbah teaches us that the commandment of Kiddush is an exception of the rule of exempting women from time-bound commandments. Remember and absorb. All those who must absorb the Shabbat must remember the Shabbat. Since women are obligated to absorb the Shabbat, they must remember the Shabbat by sanctifying the day. This ruling is reflected in the Tur, a centric halachic codex by Yaakov ben Asher in the 14th century. Men and women, state the Tur, are both obligated in the sanctification of Shabbat. In Sefer HaChinuch it is written, and it is practiced in every place and in all times by males and females, even though it's from the commandments that are caused by time. And so did our rabbis teach us, that women are obligated in Kiddush and Havdalah. Does their obligation mean that they can also sanctify and fulfill the commandment on behalf of other people? The question of compulsory spended by other people is affected by the question of the degree of charge that we mentioned earlier. The Mishnah in Tractate Rosh Hashanah writes that this is the rule. Anyone who is not obligated in the matter does not exempt others from their obligation. Returning to the argument in Tractate Brachot, according to Abaye, when the level of obligation in a certain commandment is less for women, they cannot exempt men. On the other hand, according to Rabbi Ada bar Ahava, who believes that a woman is obligated in the commandment of Kiddush in the same way as men from the Torah, we therefore learn that she can indeed represent men in this matter. The Kolbo, a book of halacha written during the times of Rishonim, writes, women are obligated to sanctify the day regardless of it being a time-bound commandment. And the reason, as our sages said, women are obligated to sanctify the day that is from the Torah. Whoever must absorb the Shabbat must remember the Shabbat. Women are obligated to absorb the Shabbat and therefore are obligated to remember the Shabbat, which is done by the way of Kiddush. And the Kolbo continues, and a woman who knows how to recite the blessing should do so, and even discharge other halachic obligation who do not know how to recite the blessing of Kiddush. The Kolbo rules like Rav Ada bar Ahava, that women are obligated in the commandment of Kiddush from the Torah, and therefore can exempt others by making the blessing for them. Rabbi Yosef Karo, who wrote the Shulchan Aruch, rules that women can bless for other people because they are required by the Torah exactly like men are. This opinion is disputed by Rabbi Yoel Sirkish in the 15th century, who cites a contradictory ruling regarding the reading of Megillah, where the Shulchan Aruch rules that women do not exclude men by blessing for them, even though it is apparently in the same level of obligation, and suggests that like in that matter, women should not be reciting the Kiddush for men. Meanwhile, his son-in-law, Rabbi David Halevi Sigal, disagrees and explains that there is a dispute as for women's obligation in reading Megillah, while in Kiddush, the obligation is the same for women and men. The Mishnah Berurah speaks out against those suggesting that a bar mitzvah boy is better off being the one to sanctify and not the mother, ruling that it is the mother who should be blessing for her household. The Yalkut Yosef ruled that due to modesty, women should only bless for their close family members and not the community. Some have gone as far as claiming that women are not allowed to bless in public because of Kvod HaTzibur, the honor of the congregation. But Rabbi David Bigman, the head of Yeshivat Ma'ale Gilboa, states unequivocally, "Your congregation very much wants this and think that this innovation will help bring the hearts of the mankind closer to their Father in heaven and to the word of Halakha. Therefore, a woman can sanctify and exempt all of the synagogue members. There's a solid foundation for this ruling. However, this is not necessarily suitable or appropriate for every community. Each community must make a decision based on a deep acquaintance with their members. What will cause the community to increase in holy virtue, and what might cause strife? Jewish law permits women to recite the Kiddush for the congregation, but it is up for the congregation to embrace this practice. Kiddush, in its essence, is a family-oriented commandment, and there is no doubt that women, especially mothers, are an integral member of the family. On Friday night, as the family gathers around the table, perhaps you could be the one to bless for everyone.